Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Noah here breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Friday, November the 29th. I'm recording this video on Thursday night, late Thursday night. Back home after all the Thanksgiving festivities. It was definitely a fun Thanksgiving for me. It was pretty relaxing. I just kind of chilled all day, ate some food, watched some football. But I'm ready to get back to the NBA grind. We got a big slate, 12 gamer. Yahoo's running a big tournament for Friday night, which I'm very excited for. They're running a 200K Purple Friday special. That's what they're calling it, with 25K and guaranteed overlay. It's also a 25K or it's a 25 entry max, so you can only enter up to 25 times. $10 entry fee. I will most likely have 25 lineups in this contest, so I'm very excited to get some or talk through Yahoo today because very excited to play in this 200K tournament. It's got a really flat payout structure. Honestly, wouldn't be surprised if this tournament overlays as well. I mean, it already has guaranteed overlay, but it'd be pretty surprising with it being a 25 entry max if it actually fills. So you guys should definitely be getting over to Yahoo for this Friday night slate. We'll definitely talk through some of my favorite Yahoo plays today, along with DraftKings. This is going to be one of those slates where we got to keep up with injury news, kind of like Wednesday's slate, the 14-gamer, where there's a lot of injuries breaking. I mean, there's definitely some big questionables heading into Friday's slate. Jimmy Butler, questionable as of Thursday night. I believe there's another pretty big one we're going to have to watch, or at least with the Sixers. We know the Sixers are going to have some value with Josh Richardson doubtful, Al Horford resting for that game. That's going to open up some plays, but the Jimmy Butler questionable is like the big injury that really impacts the slate and just really changes everything if he's out. I will talk about the plays I like if he is out, and then if he plays, if I have any interest. But before we get started looking at this 14-game slate, or 12-game slate, excuse me, before we get started looking at this 12-game slate, guys, I would appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Thank you for checking out the video. Make sure you click that subscribe button as well if you have not yet. Be sure to follow me on Twitter at DFS by Noah. Link is down in the description. Also wanted to remind you guys that starting on Monday, probably late Sunday night, early Monday morning, I will be launching my Patreon page where I'm going to have a ton of NBA exclusive content along with NFL content over there. Very excited to start that in the next couple of days. Once I do launch the page, there will be a link down in the description. It's not there right now because I haven't launched the page yet, but on probably Sunday or Monday when I do launch it, there will be a link to my Patreon where I will have a ton of exclusive content. But let's go ahead and start off looking at this 12-game slate. Start off at point guard. So we got Luka and LeBron at the top of this position. Luka 11,800 against the Suns and LeBron 11,200 against the Wizards. Like I always do, I want to start off and talk about the stud plays on the slate, just the guys 10K and above. On DraftKings, we got 4 guys 10K and above. Giannis at 12K facing the Cavs. Luka 11.8 against the Suns, like I said. LeBron 11.2 against the Wizards. And then you got Anthony Davis at 10K facing the Wizards as well. So choosing between Luka and LeBron, I think Luka is by far my favorite option. I mean, both guys are in really good matchups. LeBron facing a Wizards team that's really bad defensively, that plays very fast. The Suns are starting to pick up the pace as well. The Suns are top 10 in pace now. They've been a little bit better defensively, but they don't really have anyone that can stop Luka Doncic with how good this guy's been. He's one of the top studs for me today on DraftKings. It's very tough to get him in, though. We're going to have to wait and see what happens with the Heat and with Jimmy Butler, because if Jimmy Butler's out, that's going to open up a lot of 5K plays, like 5K values that I like a lot. Right now, there's not a lot of great value that I see. I imagine that will change as the day goes on Friday. So I can't fit Luka into the core on DraftKings, but I do want to talk about him on Yahoo. So whenever Yahoo runs like these big tournaments, these 200K, 100K tournaments that they normally don't run, I imagine it's obviously to get like more people to come to their site, to play on their site. For some reason, whenever they run these big tournaments, they always make their pricing very soft. You just kind of see it like looking at the pricing on Yahoo. If you're someone that plays on Yahoo regularly, you probably saw it the second you opened up like the slate. So Giannis was $52, or he's $52 today. On the last slate, he was $58. Luka on the last slate was $54. He's $49 today. LeBron on the last slate was $51. He's $46 today. AD, I believe, was $51 as well. Yeah, he was $51. He's $46. So everybody got priced down like $5, $6 on Yahoo for really no reason. I imagine it's because they want to make it easy for people to build lineups so that way they enjoy playing. I mean, most casual players like to be able to just like play whoever they want. So I imagine that's what they're doing. I mean, it's going to make like some easy, clear plays stand out. We're going to see like really high scores on Yahoo on Friday night just with how soft the pricing is. So with how soft the pricing is, with how much value there already is on Yahoo, with so many guys cheap, I think paying up for Luka Doncic is going to be a top priority for me. Out of the 25 lineups I have on Yahoo, he'll probably be in at least, I'd at least say like 40, 50%, if not more. Love Luka here. It's easy to get him in. He's got the most upside out of anybody on the slate. This Suns team has no chance of slowing him down. Like I said, they're top 10 in pace. They're ninth. Defensive rating, they've been a little bit better this season. We know the Suns used to be like a really bad defensive team. They're middle of the pack this season. They definitely have been improving defensively, but they're not going to be able to slow down Luka. So love Luka today, especially on Yahoo where it's easy to get him in. On DraftKings, it's a bit tougher at 11,800, but he's still a top play for me on DK as well. But I want to talk about some of the guys we have in this mid-range. So with Al Horford and Josh Richardson most likely both out today, we know Horford's out, Richardson is doubtful. That's going to open up some usage for Ben Simmons, for Tobias Harris, for Joel Embiid. Ben Simmons is 8,100 on DraftKings against the Knicks. I think he's firmly in play today. I like him a lot on Yahoo where he's only $30. He will definitely be in a lot of my Yahoo lineups. We can pull up the numbers just so far this season with Horford and Richardson off the floor for the Sixers. We're not going to get much of a sample size. It's going to be a pretty small sample size, but we can still look at the numbers. So Ben Simmons has played 92 minutes this season with Horford and Richardson off the floor. Only a 17% usage rate, 1.06 fantasy points per minute. I mean, I expect those numbers to go up as we get more of a sample size. The big one that stands out, though, is Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, 63 minutes played with both those guys off the floor. He's got a 37.3% usage rate, averaging 1.32 fantasy points per minute, and his total rebound percentage skyrockets when you take those guys off the floor. We can probably take Kyle O'Quinn off the floor because I believe O'Quinn's going to be out as well, but if you just look at the differential, Embiid sees a plus 3.8% bump in his usage when you take Richardson and Horford off the floor. I believe Kyle O'Quinn's going to be out. Let me double check that real quick because Kyle O'Quinn is going to take away rebounds from Joel Embiid. Yeah, he's going to be out for Friday, so let's take O'Quinn off the floor and see if we get anything worthy. I mean, it's going to be a very small sample size, but I'll run it real quick just to see what we get. I mean, I imagine Joel Embiid's rebound percentage with O'Quinn and Horford off the floor is like insane. So he's played 63 minutes with Horford, O'Quinn, and Richardson off the floor. I mean, that makes sense because, I mean, he's not going to play alongside Kyle O'Quinn, so 37.3% use rate, pretty much same numbers. Ben Simmons, his numbers go up, his fantasy points per minute at least, averaging 1.22 fantasy points per minute. Still a low usage rate, but I imagine that's going to go up. I mean, the high usage rate players on the Sixers with Horford and Richardson off the floor are going to be Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, and Ben Simmons. The big three, those three guys, are going to be the three guys we definitely want to target. There could be some value from the Sixers, though, as well, which we will talk about, but I do like Ben Simmons quite a bit today. I think he's firmly in play. I think Malcolm Brogdon is firmly in play as well in that same price range. Drew Holiday I like quite a bit, especially on Yahoo where he feels way too cheap at only $33. We saw him put up a big game against the Lakers. I mean, after a slow start to the season, Drew Holiday's really kicked things into gear lately. We do know that Lonzo's going to be out today, which is going to make Drew Holiday the primary point guard. His numbers do go up when you take Lonzo off the floor. We know it's going to be Drew and Brandon Ingram doing all the heavy lifting for the Pelicans. This game between the Pelicans and the Thunder does have one of the higher totals on the slate as well, which is pretty noteworthy. 228.5 total, only a 4-point spread. So high scoring and close game. That's what we want to target in NBA DFS. So Ben Simmons, Malcolm Brogdon, Drew Holiday, all those guys I like in that mid-range. In the 6K range, there isn't much that really stands out to me. Like, I think Draymond Green's a fine play in a pace-up spot against the Heat. We know the Heat are playing pretty fast this season. They do rank top 10 in pace, I believe, or they have actually dropped down since they were one of the top teams in pace at the beginning of the season. They've dropped down to about middle of the pack, but I do still expect the Heat to be a pretty fast-paced team. So Draymond Green, 6,200. He's got point guard and small forward eligibility. I think he's firmly in play on DraftKings if you do want to go to him. 6K and below, these Heat guys are going to be very interesting for me if Jimmy Butler is out. If Jimmy Butler is out today, I think Winslow at 5,700, Kendrick Nunn at 5,600, and Goran Dragic at 5,400 all become very strong plays. Even in the last game where Justice Winslow was supposed to be limited, I mean, it was his first game back from injury. He was coming off the bench, or he played off the bench. He was supposed to be limited in that game, and he still played 34 minutes and only had 24 DraftKings points, but the minutes were there for him. This is an easy matchup for the Heat today, facing a bad Warriors defense. I like Winslow a lot. If Jimmy Butler is out, he'll honestly become one of my favorite plays on the slate because I imagine he will start at point guard this time. I doubt he comes off the bench again. Like Winslow a ton. if Jimmy Butler's out today. Kendrick Nunn as well will benefit if Butler's out, and then we'll see a lot of Dragic as well if Butler is out, 5,400. So all three of those guys I'm going to have my eye on today. But then for value at point guard, I do want to talk about Tomas Satoransky. I do like him as a value play at 4,900 on DraftKings, and he's minimum salary on Yahoo. I think he's going to be a clear value play, at least just looking at this slate the night before. He's one of the guys that really stands out to me on both sides. So his numbers lately with the Bulls have been much better. He sort of got off to a really slow start at the beginning of the season. We saw him not getting like the minutes that he should be getting. But the last few games, he's seen 28, 27, 35 minutes. He played really well in that game against the Warriors. He had 41 DraftKings points in 35 minutes. Nearly had a triple-double in that game. He was 3 rebounds and 3 assists, shy of a triple-double. If you played NBA DFS last year, you know that Tomas Satoransky had a ton of upside last season when he was with the Wizards. We saw this guy put up 40, 45, 50-point games with the Wizards last season. I mean, his usage is not going to be what it was when he was with the Wizards, playing alongside Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen. He's not going to have a crazy high usage rate. I'll pull up his numbers with the Bulls this season just so we can see. I mean, I know it's not going to be incredibly high. I should have took Otto Porter off the floor because Otto Porter we know is going to be out. So let me take Otto Porter off the floor and then we'll run the numbers again real quick. So Tomas Satoransky this season with Otto Porter off the floor, 305 minutes played, averaging nearly a fantasy point per minute, 0.97 fantasy points per minute, just a 17.8% usage rate. But this is a guy that gives you upside. Like, he can contribute in all categories. He can get points, rebounds, and assists. If he plays 30 minutes, which he should if this game is competitive, he's been closing out games lately. He easily projects for probably 30 DraftKings points. And at 4,900, I like Tomas Satoransky quite a bit as a value. Both of these teams do play pretty fast. The Bulls rank 10th in pace. The Trailblazers rank 8th. So you got 2 top 10 teams in pace. This game does have one of the higher totals on the slate as well. Chicago-Portland with a 225 total and a 7.5 point spread. I think Tomas Satoransky really stands out as just one of the early look value plays I see on both sides. I do like him quite a bit. But under 5K, I think he's probably my favorite option. I mean, Isaiah Thomas is really cheap. He's only 4,200 against the Lakers. I guess this is considered a revenge game for him because he did used to play for the Lakers. I mean, he's a fine value at 4,200. With it being a 12-game slate, I imagine we'll get some better value. But if you're building out a lineup and you got 4,200 left for a util or for your point guard, I mean, I don't mind plugging in Isaiah Thomas. He's going to play probably 25 to 30 minutes. If he's playing well, they'll give him upwards of 30 minutes. He is a guy that does give you a lot of upside. Although he's been pretty bad this season, this is still a guy that will take shots when he's knocking down his shots. He can get the assist. He's going to have the ball in his hands quite a bit. This game does have the highest total on the slate right now. So Isaiah Thomas is a fine value. One injury I'll be keeping my eye on heading into Friday is Cam Reddish. That's another big one. So Cam Reddish is questionable for this game. We've seen, at least earlier this season, just like a few games ago, when Cam Reddish was out, we got DeAndre Bembry starting. He started at shooting guard, I believe, for Cam Reddish when Reddish was out. Those 2 games against Detroit and Toronto, Bembry got the start. He played 35 and 32 minutes in those games, had 45 and 29 DraftKings points. DeAndre Bembry would be a top value play today if Cam Reddish is out. He's only 3,800 on DraftKings. I'm pretty sure he's minimum salary on Yahoo, so that's going to be an injury I keep my eye on is Cam Reddish, because that will open up DeAndre Bembry. But let's go ahead and talk about some shooting guards now. Look at this position. Just running through point guard on Yahoo real quick. I think I'm going to be playing a lot of Luka here. In the mid-range, I like Malcolm Brogdon and Ben Simmons both a lot at $31 and $30. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be keeping my eye on the Heat situation. If Jimmy Butler's out, Winslow at 20 I like a lot. Goran Dragic at 16 I like a lot as well. And then if you need value, Bembry is actually $14, but I still would like him as a value if Reddish is out. Tomas Satoransky, minimum salary, I like quite a bit. Markelle Fultz, $12 with both Vucevic and Gordon out. He's been playing really well. He's been seeing pretty big minutes. He's still $12 on Yahoo, so he would also be a fine play. But I expect a lot of my point guard ownership to go to Luka and Ben Simmons and probably some Brogdon as well. But there is some cheap plays that I do like. But let's go ahead and run through shooting guard now and talk about this position. So at the shooting guard position, you got Bradley Beal at the top for 9,400. Don't see myself playing a ton of Bradley Beal today. There's just other studs I would rather go to. I mean, I like Brogdon a lot at 7,900. I like Drew Holiday at 7,800. If I'm going to pay up at the shooting guard position, those are probably going to be the 2 guys I go to the most. You got Kawhi Leonard in the revenge game against the Spurs, but this is like the 3rd or 4th time he's faced the Spurs since he left the team, so I don't think it's really a revenge game anymore. I'm mainly going to be targeting Brogdon and Holiday if I'm paying up at shooting guard. If you're going to the mid-range, there's not much that really stands out in terms of core plays. Obviously, the Josh Richardson news is pretty big. He's doubtful. That's going to open up some value that we will talk about. But I don't really see much in this mid-range that stands out. Tyler Hero, I will definitely like quite a bit today if Jimmy Butler is out. At 5,100 on DraftKings, he's firmly in play. He is minimum salary on Yahoo, so he will be a top value for me as well on Yahoo if Butler sits. I like him quite a bit. But I want to talk about Josh Hart first. So I do like Josh Hart as a value at 4,700. He's facing OKC, which is a team that I don't think plays very fast this season. I believe they've been like middle of the pack. Yeah, they've been middle of the pack this season so far in pace. This game right now between the Thunder and the Pelicans does have one of the higher totals at 228. So this is projected to be a pretty high-scoring game, a close game as well. In Josh Hart's first game back from injury against the Lakers, he did play 25 minutes. He came off the bench in that game. He had 17 DraftKings points. I want to pull up Popcorn Machine real quick and just look at their rotation. I believe Josh Hart did close out that game over Kendrick Williams. I want to confirm that, though, before I actually say that. So Josh Hart came off the bench. He subbed in for, it looks like he subbed in for Brandon Ingram. He played about the final 3 minutes of the first quarter. Then he played about halfway through the second quarter, subbed out. He subbed in about towards the end of the third quarter, about 3 or 4 minutes towards the end of the third quarter, and he pretty much played the entire fourth quarter. So he closed out the game over. It looks like they closed out the game with Ingram, Redick. Jackson Hayes played about halfway through the fourth quarter, then he subbed out. It looks like it was Ingram, Redick, Drew Holiday, Josh Hart, and then you had a little bit of Kendrick Williams and a little bit of Jackson Hayes. But their closing lineup was Ingram, Redick, Hart, and Holiday. I imagine if Josh Hart doesn't start today, he's still going to play big minutes off the bench. He probably will close out the game again. It was his first game back from injury. I don't believe he had like a minutes restriction or anything. I imagine he'll probably get to 30 minutes here. I mean, we saw Josh Hart be very productive this season when he was getting a pretty good run. With Lonzo out, his minutes should be pretty secure. He should see probably 30 minutes. That's one less guy that has the potential to close out the game over him. So I like Josh Hart quite a bit as a value play. 4,700 on DraftKings, shooting guard and small forward eligible. He's definitely a guy I'm going to have my eye on as we head into the slate. And if he does wind up starting, I do feel a lot better about his minutes, and he would definitely be an even better value play. Also, I do want to talk about Tim Hardaway Jr. So he's 46 on DraftKings, and just in the last few games that he has moved into the starting lineup, he has started the last 4 games. I'm not really going to count those games against Cleveland and Golden State because those were big blowouts. Just the last 2 games that were competitive against Houston and the Clippers, he played 38 and 29 minutes, had 49 and 17 DraftKings points. Obviously, Tim Hardaway is like a very volatile player. Like his shooting, I mean, if he's not knocking down a lot of shots, he's not going to put up a ton of DK points. He just doesn't give you the upside with the peripherals. He's not going to get a ton of rebounds or assists or like steals or blocks. But I do think he can make some shots here in this game against the Suns. This is a game that's going to be played at a fast pace. Does have one of the higher totals. Hardaway is pretty secure for big minutes as long as the game stays competitive. He's their starter now over Seth Curry. At 4,600, just looking at this slate the night before with like potential values we're going to have to keep an eye on. I mean, there's no clear standout values. I think Tim Hardaway and Josh Hart both stand out as cheap values, just guys that should play probably 30-plus minutes, and they're very cheap. On Yahoo, I don't think you need to go to them with how many underpriced players there are on Yahoo today, but I like them quite a bit on DraftKings. But the last guy I want to talk about at shooting guard is, well, there's 2 guys actually. So Ferdinand Korkmaz is 3,300. I imagine with Josh Richardson doubtful, he will most likely draw the start. It's going to be pretty hard to tell how many minutes he plays. In some of the games he started this season, we've seen him play like upwards of 28 to 30 minutes. I mean, he's a very volatile player. Like, he's not going to project well, but he's 3,300. He's facing a Knicks team that's really not good defensively. I mean, Ferdinand Korkmaz is firmly in play as a value for 3,300, with him most likely starting for Josh Richardson. Also, Malise Tybal is really cheap, if I can spell his name. I honestly don't know how to spell his name. I think it's M-Y-T, or it's M-T-Y. I don't even know. I'm just going to have to look him up real quick. Pretty sure he's shooting guard eligible. I can actually click on the Sixers, so let me do that. So Malise Tybal is 3K. He's a stone minimum, shooting guard and small forward eligible. So last game, he played 21 minutes off the bench, had 32 DraftKings points. We're not going to expect that from him again. I imagine he will start in place of Al Horford. I believe the game earlier this season when Al Horford rested, Tybal did start at the 4. I don't think he was very productive. I believe he played like 25 minutes and barely did anything. I mean, he's not much of a productive player. He's not going to really score. He's just kind of like a really good defender. He'll get steals and blocks. Maybe he'll contribute with like a few rebounds or assists. Only reason I want to mention him is because he's most likely going to be starting, and he's the stone minimum on a slate where we're kind of looking for value right now. Maybe some better value will open up, but if you got 3K left and you really like your lineup, I think Malise Thybulle is probably a guy I would look to at the stone minimum. Running through shooting guard, though, real quick on Yahoo just before we move to small forward. I like Drew Holiday the most at this position if I'm paying up. $33, he stands out quite a bit. Devin Booker at 28 also stands out in that same game, or in the game against the Mavericks, especially if you're playing Luka Doncic and you want to run it back with a Suns guy. I think Booker is a guy I like quite a bit at 28. Evan Fournier has seen production spike with Gordon and Vooch off the floor. He's really cheap on Yahoo at $19. I like him quite a bit. I'll definitely have my eye on Kendrick Nunn. If Jimmy Butler's out, he would become a really good play. JJ Redick for value makes a lot of sense at $13. And then Tyler Hero is minimum salary on Yahoo as well, and he would be a top value play if Jimmy Butler is out. So that's kind of like my quick player pool for shooting guard on Yahoo. But let's go ahead and run through small forward real quick. Just looking at this position, talking about the guys I haven't talked about, I do prefer Luka over Giannis today, so I won't really mention Giannis. I do also prefer Luka over LeBron as well. So Luka's my top small forward if I'm paying up. I mean, I just like the game environment a lot more for him against the Suns. I think that game has a lot more potential to stay competitive. Plus, Chris Middleton is coming back for the Bucks. He came back last game. That's going to take away some usage from Giannis, whereas we know Luka has like almost a 40% usage rate this season with the Mavericks. He's just been a monster. So if I'm paying up at small forward, he's my favorite guy to go to. Don't really see myself going to this mid range unless I'm playing like Ben Simmons at 8,100. Jonathan Isaac's price has come down to 6,900 on DraftKings. I do have quite a bit of interest in him, especially since we know Vucevic and Gordon are both going to be out. I believe Gordon is doubtful. He does see a spike in usage with both those guys off the floor. He had a big game the first game. Those guys were off the floor against the Pacers. He had 51 DraftKings points in 29 minutes. And then the last two games have been pretty disappointing. Just 31 in 28 minutes, 29, 34 DraftKings points. I'm not sure why the Magic don't give Isaac 34 to 35 minutes. I don't know why they're like capping him at 30 minutes, which is very frustrating. I'm pretty sure last game against the Cavs, Evan Fournier nearly played like 40 minutes, but Isaac only played 28. Doesn't make a lot of sense, but he still has a ton of upside with both those guys off the floor. He's got double-double upside. He can get the defensive stats as well. Now that his price has come down on DraftKings, I like Jonathan Isaac quite a bit at 6,900. Tobias Harris definitely stands out at 6,400. 6,400. We know Horford and Richardson are both going to be out today, so he stands out at 6,400. His usage should spike with both those guys off the floor. Let me take a drink of water real quick. My throat's really like stopped up. Been talking for a while, but let's go ahead and go back to small forward. So you got Draymond 6,200. I like him against the Heat. You could definitely play. Jabari Parker's coming off a monster game against the Bucks. He's 6,200. He's still really cheap on DraftKings. I could definitely see using him today if you want to go to him at small forward. Winslow, I've mentioned, I like a lot today. If Jimmy Butler is out, you can play him at small forward. Davis Bertans is someone I want to talk about on Yahoo. So at 5,100 on DraftKings, I mean, you can firmly play him as a value. He's not like my top value by any means. Over on Yahoo, though, he still is really cheap at the power forward position. He's only $14. He's been getting a lot of good run off the bench for the Wizards just the last few games. I believe like just the last like 6 or 7 games, he's played at least 28 minutes. He only played 22 minutes against Denver, which was kind of surprising, but he still put up 23 fantasy points in that game. I mean, if you're rostering Bertans on Yahoo, you want him to get probably 30 fantasy points to feel good about rostering him, and I think he can easily do that here against a Lakers team that's very good defensively, but this is still a game that has one of the higher totals on the slate. If I'm going to target Bertans, I want to target him in games with a high total where there's a lot of points projected to be scored, because that's what he's best at, is knocking down threes. He can get some rebounds as well. At $14 on Yahoo, I think Davis Bertans is still too cheap, and I do like him quite a bit as a value play. You can definitely target him on DraftKings as well at 5,100 if you want to go to him as a value. But under 5K for cheap small forwards, I mean, Kyle Kuzma, 4,500 in that matchup against the Wizards, I do like quite a bit. His minutes are going to be probably around high 20s, low 30s most nights. I mean, just the last 4 games, he's played about mid-20s in minutes every game. I mean, it doesn't give you a ton of upside playing alongside Anthony Davis and LeBron, but this game just has so many projected points. It's going to be such a high-scoring game. It's such a good matchup for these Lakers guys, so Kuzma is in play as a value. But that's really what I'm looking to at small forward. We'll run through small forward real quick on Yahoo. Just looking at this position, I like Isaac a ton at $30 I like him a lot at $30. If Jimmy Butler plays at $34, I think he's firmly in play at small forward. Tobias Harris at $26, I really like today. He should see a spike in usage. For cheap plays, for value, I mean, there's not much value I like. If you're going cheap, I think Josh Hart at 16 is a fine value. You can play Tim Hardaway at $13 if you want to go to him on Yahoo, but I'm probably going to be paying up at small forward most likely, unless we get some injury news that opens up some value at this position. I really like Jimmy at 34. I like Isaac at 30. I like Tobias Harris a lot at 26. Those are the guys I'm probably going to get the most exposure to at small forward on Yahoo. But now power forward, I do want to talk about Anthony Davis. I still think he is too cheap on DraftKings. He's $10K today against the Wizards. I mean, this is a very good matchup for Anthony Davis. Like, he should smash against this Wizards team. They really have no answers for him, whether they want to put Thomas Bryant or, I mean, Davis Bertans won't guard Anthony Davis. I imagine it'll be like either Thomas Bryant or Rui or Mo Wagner trying to stop Anthony Davis, and he should just be able to dominate in all those matchups. We saw it against the Pelicans. You can say revenge game or whatever you want to say. I mean, I just thought Anthony Davis was a great play that day. He was too cheap, and he was facing the Pelicans team that we know struggles defensively, plays fast, and had no answer for him defensive-wise. And we saw that with him putting up 41 and 9 with 1 assist, 1 block, and 3 steals, 61 DraftKings points. We could definitely see another 60-point game from AD. So at 10K on DraftKings, I like him as one of the top studs on the slate, just factoring in salary. You can definitely target him on Yahoo as well at $46, but when you just look at the other studs, I mean, you got Luka for $3 more. I'd much rather play Luka. You can drop down to like Joel Embiid, who we'll talk about, who I love today, and he's 37 on Yahoo. So I don't think I'm going to be playing a ton of AD, but I still do like him, and he still will be in my player pool. He'll probably get into a few of my 25 lineups. But now just looking at the mid-range at power forward, I mean, there's not much that really stands out just in the mid-range. You can play Jonathan Isaac at this position, who I do like quite a bit. I think LaMarcus Aldridge is a fine play at 7,100, but not a core play. You got Tobias Harris, who's power forward eligible, who I like a lot today. Jabari Parker still feels too cheap, 6,200. You can definitely consider him. I mean, Thomas Bryant's a tough matchup against the Lakers, but he's 6,200. He has a ton of upside, and we know he's going to play big minutes as long as the game is competitive and as long as he can stay out of foul trouble. Dario Saric has been playing really well. His price is up to $5,900 on DraftKings, so I don't think he's going to be a core play for me on DK, but when we run through power forward on Yahoo, we will talk about him over there because he still is really, really cheap on Yahoo. You got Bertans at $5,100, who I would have in my player pool. Under 5K, I mean, I'm not going to be going to the Suns bigs now that Aaron Baines is probable. Aaron Baines is expected to play today, so that's going to cut into a lot of Frank Kaminsky and Check Diallo's value. They're going to take big hits. If something like Thomas Bryant, like if he gets in foul trouble or something, we're going to see Mo Wagner really benefit. I mean, Mo Wagner has been incredibly productive just in the limited minutes he has played this season. I mean, if Thomas Bryant guards Anthony Davis, like, there's a very good chance he gets into foul trouble. So if I was making multiple lineups, I would get some exposure to Wagner. It is a revenge game for him. He did used to play for the Lakers, so you can take that for what it's worth. I just think there's a ton of upside for him if Bryant gets into foul trouble in this matchup, which is very possible. If Wagner even plays like close to 30 minutes, I mean, he's going to be a smash play at only 4,700. We've seen the kind of upside that he has when he gets the minutes. You do have Kyle Kuzma at power forward who you can play as a cheap value, but I think that's what I'm looking at power forward, just in terms of value that stands out the night before. Before we move to center, we'll run through power forward on Yahoo really quick. So you're going to have salary today on Yahoo with how cheap everybody is. So obviously I'll probably have lineups with Giannis and with Anthony Davis. Choosing between the two, I honestly think I'd rather save the $6 and play AD. That's probably a hot take. I mean, Giannis has been incredibly popular on Yahoo just these last few slates because of how soft their pricing is. People just pay up for him because they have the salary. I think I feel better about AD, though, in his matchup in that game environment. A game that should be close and competitive and should be very high scoring. In this mid-range, though, Kevin Love, especially in lineups where I do play Giannis, I probably want to have somebody from the Cavs, and Kevin Love's the guy that stands out to me the most. He's $27 on Yahoo. I like him a lot in that mid-range. Even Julius Randle at $26. I believe Julius Randle went nuts against the Sixers earlier this season. Maybe that was a different game. No, that was against the Cavs, but he did have 36 fantasy points in 35 minutes against them. We do know Al Horford's going to be out, so that is a boost for Julius Randle. Although Tybalt coming into the starting lineup isn't that big of a boost because Tybalt's a really good defender. Blake Griffin's 26, which feels too cheap, but I mean, Blake Griffin just hasn't been doing much this season, and there are guys for cheaper that probably give you even more upside. So even though Blake Griffin might stand out as a cheap play, everyone's too cheap on Yahoo today. Like, you got Jabari at 23, Draymond both at 23 that you could look to. I mean, Lauri Markkanen's $19 on Yahoo. There's definitely value at this position, though. Dario Saric, with how well he's been playing, even with Aaron Baines returning for this game, I still like Dario Saric on Yahoo, where he's only $15. He's played big minutes the last two games. 33 and 36 minutes, has been very productive with 44 and 43 fantasy points. So he's firmly in play. You got Carmelo at 14, who's playing big minutes right now. Davis Bertans at 14. Definitely a lot of value at the power forward position that you can look to. So let's go ahead and move on to center real quick. We'll run through the center position before we end the video. So talking about the expensive centers, you got Drummond and Embiid, both 9K and above. Drummond facing the Hornets, Embiid facing the Knicks. I think Drummond's in the better matchup against the Hornets, but when you factor in the spike in usage that Joel Embiid should see today with both Horford and Richardson out, he's my favorite spend-up center, and he's honestly one of my favorite plays on the slate. 9K on DraftKings, I like him a lot. He's one of my favorite plays on Yahoo at only $37. I think he is severely underpriced, along with pretty much everybody on Yahoo. So we can pull up the numbers. I mean, I showed you earlier on in the video, but we'll pull them up real quick just so you guys can see the usage. Go to the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll take Al Horford off the floor, and then we'll run it with Al Horford and Richardson both off the floor because we do know Horford's going to be out. We haven't gotten the news yet on Richardson, but he is doubtful. So 229 minutes for Joel Embiid this season with Al Horford off the floor. 32.9% usage rate, 1.55 fantasy points per minute, has a 23.6% total rebound percentage, which is very, very high. Joel Embiid is a top play here. I showed it earlier, but if you take Richardson off the floor, I believe the numbers get even better. Just want to confirm that real quick. So he had a 32% usage rate with Horford off. Now with Richardson and Horford off, he has a 37.3% usage rate and is averaging 1.32 fantasy points per minute. So Joel Embiid is a top play for me today. Love him on both sides. I'm not scared about the matchup with the Knicks. I mean, it's a really good spot for Embiid. I believe he's already played the Knicks once this season. I believe that was with Horford and Richardson both playing. I'm not exactly sure. I can actually confirm that real quick. So let's go to Horford's game log, see if he played against the Knicks. He did play against the Knicks. Let's go to Josh Richardson's game log real quick. Okay, Josh Richardson. See if he played. So Richardson was out against the Knicks, but Horford played. And you still got big minutes from Embiid like always. 33 minutes in that game, 47 fantasy points. I'd probably project him for like 34 minutes in this game and probably 50 fantasy points, if not more. So love Embiid on both sides. One of my favorite plays. Definitely a guy I'm going to be spending up for at center quite a bit today. But other centers you could go to, with Jimmy Butler off the floor, Bam Adebayo does see a pretty big bump, so I would like him a lot if Butler is out. 8K on DraftKings, $30 on Yahoo. He definitely stands out. It's a smash spot for Hassan Whiteside, but his price is up on both sides, so I don't think he's going to be a core play for me. But I do love the matchup for him against the Bulls. If he's cheap on like FanDuel or something, he would be a really good play, but I haven't looked at FanDuel salaries. I don't play on FanDuel. But in this mid-range center, you do have Thomas Bryant, who I talked about earlier. I like quite a bit at 6,200. Jonas Valanciunas is someone I want to talk about. So I have a feeling he's going to be pretty low owned today just because of the matchup against the Jazz. One thing that's very good to see, though, is that Jonas Valanciunas played 34 minutes in their last game against the Clippers and had 60 DraftKings points. Jonas Valanciunas is one of the most productive players in fantasy. This guy can rebound really well. He can score. In this matchup against the Jazz, this is a spot where Joe Val is going to be needed. His size is going to be needed against Rudy Gobert. When he did play the Jazz earlier this season, he didn't have that productive of a game, just 24 DraftKings points, but he did play 29 minutes, which we like to see. If you project 30 minutes for Joe Val here, with his rates this season with the Grizzlies, I can pull him up real quick just so you guys can see. Pretty sure he averages like 1.2 or 1.3 fantasy points per minute. I'm not exactly sure on that. Just confirming it. 22.2 or 22.1% usage rate for Joe Val this season with the Grizzlies in 404 minutes has a 1.18 fantasy point per minute average. Also going along with a 20.5% total rebound percentage. So I like Joe Val a lot, assuming he gets the minutes, which, I mean, he played 34 minutes last game, so it's it seems like his minutes restriction's gone now, and that he can play as many minutes as he can handle. He is really cheap on Yahoo, though, and I think that's where I have a lot of interest in him. $16, he's going to be a top play for me over there. If I'm looking for a center value play, I mean, he's the first guy that catches my eye just under $20. Like, you got Wendell Carter at 18, like Brolo at 17. Aaron Baines is expected to play today. He's 15. Gasol is 14. You got WCS at 14. Like, give me Joe Val over all those guys, even in a tough matchup. Joe Val is just such a productive player that I like him a ton today, assuming he gets 30-plus minutes, which seems like he will, especially in a spot where they're going to need his size, and he also played 34 minutes in their last game. So love Joe Val today. You can definitely play him on DraftKings as well. In the 5K range at center, there's not much that really stands out to me just in terms of core plays, and there's really no value that I love besides the guys I've already talked about. Like, you got Wagner, who you could play, who would definitely benefit if you think Thomas Bryant maybe gets into some foul trouble, guarding AD. That's probably it, though, for the center position, guys. I know this is a really long video. I'm not exactly sure how long I've been recording, but thank you to everyone who stuck through the whole video. I do really appreciate it. If you did enjoy the video, make sure you drop a like down below. If you have not yet, make sure you click that subscribe button. Follow me on Twitter as well. Link is down in the description at DFS by Noah. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I will be launching my Patreon page in the next couple of days. I'll be launching it probably sometime Sunday night, early Monday morning. My first bit of NBA content will go live on Monday. I'll have my premium articles, videos, private videos I'll be uploading on Patreon. If you want to get access to those, you'll have to go subscribe to my Patreon page, which will be launching soon. Thank you to everyone who has supported the YouTube channel just throughout the last few years. Very excited to start this Patreon. I hope to see you guys, some of you guys over there. Hopefully you will choose to support me and support my content over there. But good luck on the slate tonight, guys. I appreciate you watching the video. Thank you for sticking through the whole thing. Good luck tonight. Peace.